in for the duration that they are on the podium. Maybe it was a butt dial. Just a couple of reminders, too, to please turn off all your cell phones. No flash photography in the interview area. No video recording. Please make sure you raise your hand, wait for a microphone. Introduce yourself with your name and affiliation. When addressing questions to the student athletes, please address the specific student athlete with their name. This will help us with our ASAP quotes. South Carolina is making their way down to the podium now. Their locker room is open until 11:40. Because he's never done that in the middle of a press conference. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Joining us now on the dais from South Carolina, head coach Don Staley, student athletes Kayla Davis and Asia Wilson. We'll take an opening statement from Coach Staley, and then we'll take some questions.
We're excited to be here, playing in the third weekend of the NCAA tournament, and look forward to the challenges that lie ahead of us.
Thank you. We have 2 microphone holders. Please raise your hand. We can take questions for the student athletes at this time. Question right here. Can we get a mic over here? Thanks.
Hi, Kayla, Howard Magdell here. I'm curious, all season long you've been most efficient on the spot-up shooting, but obviously your game has had to evolve even, beyond that here in the NCAA tournament. What do you see as that growth, and in what areas beyond the spot-up has been most effective for you during the NCAA tournament?
I think it's just been attacking the paint, just being more aggressive and not just settling for jump shots, but just kind of looking past that first defender and like I said, just trying to get points in the paint.
Student athlete question right here.
Asia, Gene Zapikoff of the Charleston Post and Courier. You're from South Carolina. You know all the great things about the state and some of the not so great things. What do you think it's like to have 2 minority head coaches representing the state and the school in the Final Four and just be such good representatives for both the state and the school?
I think it's a great thing. Like you said, I'm from South Carolina, and just to see the 2 coaches really come up and really change our program and build our school and just bring something so positive back home into the state of South Carolina is always a great thing. So I love this feeling, and I love this sight that I'm seeing, and it's just the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit for both of these programs.
Anything else for the student athletes? Right here in front.
Doug Feinberg, DAP. Asia, you were here a couple years ago in the Final Four. What did you learn from that experience? And as one of the veterans of the team, what have you told the younger ones who have not been here before?
I've learned that it is just a different feeling. It really is. I mean, when you got to play and you don't know if the next game's guaranteed, you don't take anything for granted. And that's something that I really want to tell my teammates is the biggest thing I've been preaching is I don't want my teammates to feel the way that I felt last year and the year before that. It's not a good feeling. So I really want to try my best to kind of get this team to not have that feeling. We want to have the opposite feeling of what I felt. So that's something that I've really tried to make them aware of. And just I'm pretty sure they all know that you really can't take this game of basketball for granted.
Question right here in the corner.
Hi, good morning. Elliot Allman, San Jose Mercury News. For any of the 3 players, what is the yeah, I did it because I want to get. Okay, 3 players. Yeah. What? Look, I just flew in. Give me a break. For the 2 players, what is the easiest thing from what you've seen in scouting Stanford now? What will be the easiest thing tomorrow night, and what will be the most difficult thing?
Do you want to take that first, Kayla?
I mean, I think honestly, it's a Final Four. I don't really think there's anything easy, but I think we just have to play our game. Honestly, Stanford, they're playing really, really well right now, and I think, what was it, 80 assists on 105 field goals is what they're doing in the tournament right now. So that's pretty crazy. They're sharing the ball well. They're shooting the ball well, and they're getting scoring from a lot of different players and production from a lot of different players. So. We've been playing really well on the defensive end. I think that's something we're definitely going to have to continue.
Yeah, just really going off of that. Don't really have much to add.
Anything else for the student athletes? Question right here.
Asia, question for you. South Carolina's really sort of made its bones on the defensive end of things. But do you think your offensive versatility is something that maybe sometimes gets overlooked, and do you feel like you're able to change the perception of South Carolina offensively with what you're able to do on the floor?
I don't know, honestly. I think we all have different style of game, and I think that we all adjust to our system, and that's what makes our system so great. And I really wouldn't say that it gets my offense gets really overlooked, honestly. I think I just kind of play my role, and that's something that we've all done on this team. So I honestly wouldn't say it gets overlooked.
Question over here from Richard.
Yeah, hey, Richard Deitch, Sports Illustrated. This is for both Asia and Kayla. What would you say was the most difficult moment for you this season, and how did you and/or your team overcome it?
Can you take that first, Kayla?
That's a really good question. Most difficult moment? I mean, I think, any of the losses that we had this season were all difficult. I mean, I think obviously starting off with Duke, I think that hit us pretty hard. But I think we've found a way to learn from each one of those experiences and to, not just take them as losses, take them as lessons as well. So I think we've just found a way to, take a little bit of adversity and just come back from it.
Yeah, I was going to say the losses that we kind of overcame throughout this season.
Question right over here.
Lindsay Jones from USA Today. This is for both of you guys. What's one thing specifically that Coach Staley has done for you to help you improve your game this season?
Can you start that, Kayla? Thanks.
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of things, but coming in, I think for me it was just really on the defensive end, and just kind of staying engaged and staying locked in with whatever we're doing. And whatever's going on. So it's, for me, I think it's just been a way to not only be effective offensively, but, just be an overall player and be effectively defensively as well. And especially when, I had a little lull there where offensively I wasn't doing great, I had to find a way to, stay on the floor and be productive while I was there.
I don't think I can actually pinpoint how much she's really helped me with my game, honestly. She's helped me all around, whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, throughout. Just taking the game in and just knowing that, what do you always say? When you always give something to the game always gives it back to you, or something like that. Yeah, the game is a gift, and you put in what you put in, and it's gonna return what they think you deserve.
Thank you, ladies. That's all the time we have for the student athletes. We will dismiss them back to the locker room. They will be available there until 11:40, and we will continue with questions for Coach Staley. Thanks. Nice job. We'll start here with Michelle.
Michelle Smith, ESPNW. Don, when you played for Tara in the Olympic year in '96, did you appreciate then what you appreciate about her now as a coach?
I do. The '96, that entire year, just opened my eyes to seeing basketball coached and played at a different level. The amount of pressure that was on our team and on Tara, she made us feel all of the pressure that was on her. She didn't want the team to fail, and I feel like from my experiences with her, she taught me how to approach the game, how to approach pressure situations, and how to execute while being under that amount of pressure.
Question right here in the front row.
Stephen Hawkins with the AP. Don, I know you've been to Final Fours as a coach. I kind of want you to reflect back, kind of a two-part. When you look back at your time as a player, are there still experiences from that Final Four that you still draw on that maybe you try to give to your players? And also, as part of that Final Four, obviously you played Tara, your team played Tara twice on the way to their 2 championships, and you faced Gino in his first NCAA tournament. Do you remember much about them as coaches back then as a kid, or did you even pay much attention to that at that point?
Well, I didn't pay much attention to the coaching when I was playing, and the emotions that as I reflect on participating in the Final Fours and not being able to win a national championship is the thing that fuels me as a coach to check that box off. And fortunately, I've been around some great players to get us back at this point to compete for a national championship, and hopefully our day has come.
Next question in the back corner.
Coach Wendell Barnhouse, American Sports Network. There's been a lot of talk, Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, talking about maybe a women's coach in the NBA. And what do you think it's going to take to have either a women's coach coach a men's team at college or at the NBA level?
Opportunity. Basketball is basketball. I don't think it doesn't have a gender. It has a mind. It has an approach. It has a willingness, and given the opportunity, women can excel in this game. As you can see, Becky Hammond's doing a great job, and you need more people like Coach Popovich to give them opportunities to learn, to grow, and to embrace it. And I don't think he sees gender. I think he sees someone that has a great basketball mind, that's tireless, and once you're given that opportunity, you see great things come out of it.
Question right here.
Cedric Bailey, Levita News and BGC Sports. Other coaches, do you communicate with them, or do they contact? You don't have to say their names, but do they just share words of encouragement for you? Because you have to plan your schedule at the beginning of the season, how you're going to do this. And then my other part of the question is, how'd you get the name Miss Magic growing up?
Yeah, I talk to other coaches. Definitely, if you're in this game long enough, you want to create an edge, no matter where you are, and you do it through your network of friends and coaching to figure out how you can make your team better, and we often do that. As far as Magic, growing up in Philly, I like to say that my game was probably more open court and more flashy than your regular average player, and probably I like to pass the ball, and Magic was the best to do it.
Question back here from Richard.
Yeah, Dawn, philosophically, when Coates went down, how did you and your coaching staff approach what you were going to do afterwards? And it was interesting to hear Tara Vanderveer talk about how you may actually be a tougher team to guard right now because the ball is spread more, and seems like there's more avenues for you to attack offensively.
Well, when Coates went down, obviously we were concerned. She's someone that has contributed to our program for the last 4 years. She's gotten us SEC championships, both regular season and tournament championships. She's got us to the Final Four, and you exhale for a second because you feel bad for her. And then once that moment passes, you got to get your healthy bodies ready to go. That you got to get their minds ready. You got to get them ready spiritually, physically, emotionally. And then we never looked back. We never fretted it. We never, felt like we didn't have enough in the room to get it done. The part that I'm, proud of is the way that they've come together. They've actually have gotten closer because of it. And that's what you need your teams to do in an adverse moment. And you cannot, you can't foresee, the chemistry part of it. A lot of what we're doing is because of the closeness of this team, because of Elena's injury, and that's how you want your team to respond.
Question here in the front row.
Don, Jerry Longman from the New York Times, longtime Philadelphia resident. You were talking about women coaching in the NBA, but the women so you and Tara are, two of the most prominent women's coaches, but the opportunities for 4 decades for women to be able to coach women have been slowly declining. And how big of an issue do you see that as being in women getting a chance to coach women in college basketball, and how do you change the trend, the downward trend, I guess?
Well, I look at it like this. Obviously, women are playing at a high level, which makes our game attractive to men's coaches. So that's a great thing. It also reduces the amount of female coaches in our game because of it. So we've made it popular. We've made it appealing. to male coaches, and now they want to, be a part of our game. But I think that when given an opportunity, just like men are given the opportunity to coach the women of our game, you tend to have some success with it. So, I don't think there should be a gender. I think there should be, opportunity, for, all women. I don't think we need to be overlooked at this point because, years ago, only women wanted to coach women because it wasn't the popular thing, but it's becoming more popular. So, I hope ADs and administrators are, not just looking for the male gender to coach our players. I'm one that thinks basketball is a place of utopia and fairness, and I want to be looked at as a coach and not necessarily as a female coach. And I hope everybody, approaches it that way. The numbers are looking like it's geared towards that, and I know probably some of my other female colleagues would beg to differ, probably differ in how I look at it, but my approach to the game has been, loving the game, and it loves me back, and that's the approach that I take, from it.
Question here from Mel.
Noah Greenberg, you're still a player to me. Dawn, a couple weeks ago when Temple lost and the way they lost, Tanya was talking about seniors and the dynamic of when a game, you don't see it coming. You had a tough one against Tara in '92. How long did it take you to get over that?
I still remember that. And I think, as many wins that I've been a part of, it's the losses that really sting. 90, 91, and 92, all were opportunities for us to win a national championship. But the last one was probably the hardest one. I often look back on it and wish I had approached it a little differently because I do think I could have made Angela Taylor foul me. Especially, they put her in the game just, to guard me in that last play, and I just popped out. I should have popped out and stopped. And at the rate, I can't say that. I can't continue. I could have made her foul me in that instance.
Question right here.
Hi, Don. Vicki Fulkerson from the New London Day in Connecticut. I was wondering, you played Mississippi State a couple times this season in really, really tough games. I was wondering, what makes them so tough to play, and are you not surprised to see them here as well as you?
Not surprised to see them here. They're, very well coached. They are experienced. Their team has been together for the last 3 or 4 years. They're very calculating in what they want to do from an offensive standpoint. Defensively, they're pretty stingy. And, Vic's done a great job at just building, getting, having some success in our league. And when you're having success in our league, when you're transitioned to the NCAA tournament, it puts you in a position where you're ahead of the game. And then, for how they defend, for how they rebound, and how they're calculating on the offensive end, I'm not surprised to see them here on the biggest stage of women's college basketball.
Question in the back, standing.
Yeah, hi, I'm Barry Horn from the Dallas Morning News. Just your men's team, does the South Carolina men's team have any benefits that you don't have?
Right now, the benefit is they'll probably get all of our fans because it's their first time going to the Final Four. But as far as, benefits, program benefits, no, we pretty much get what we want. It may be different. We get what we want in order for us to be successful, and that's what's great about our administrators, from our president to our AD, to our janitors. We get the same ovation as anybody on campus, not just basketball, football, women's soccer, tennis. All of us feel like, from our administrators, we feel like we're the only program at our university. And when you can make somebody feel that special all the time, it leads to being successful.
Question right here in the gray.
Thanks. Hi, Dawn. Howard Magdal. In terms of your offense, a lot of times your program's been described as sort of a defense-first team. You guys are consistently top 20 in offensive efficiency, though. This year, in particular, it seems like you have your most diverse offensive team. I'm curious whether you think that is the case, whether you think it's underrated historically, and if you think this offense gives you your best chance at a national championship.
Well, here's what's happened over the past few years. We didn't have as much talent as we have over, maybe the past 2 or 3 years. So we had to do it with defense and rebounding. So we build our program on just that because of the personnel that we have. Now that we have a more talented roster, we're more versatile. We can do a lot of different things. I'm not a systems coach, I play off the personnel that we have, and we put them in positions to be effective. A lot of times it's off the bounce, and a lot of teams that are here like to, Stanford and Connecticut, they're a passing offensive team, a system teams that rely on passing. We're a team that rely on putting the ball on the floor, ball screen action, and with some passing. So I think we have the best of both worlds in that if you take one thing away, we have some other things that we can rely on because we have the talent to do so.
Question here from Doug.
Is this year our best offensive year? I think we've been put in a situation where we've had to make adjustments, and when you've made adjustments and they work out, it seems pretty good. I thought our coaching staff did a great job. Once Asia Wilson went down for a 2-week period, we went to a smaller lineup, which helped us. And then when Coates went down, we just adjusted and we perfected, the offense that worked for us. And you're seeing us spread the floor a little bit and utilizing the talent that we have.
Question from Doug.
Hey, Dawn, Doug Feinberg, the AP. Two-part, just what did you learn as a coach 2 years ago when you guys fell just short in the Final Four? And along those lines, seeing UConn here year after year and the consistency, what makes it that difficult to keep on getting back here to the Final Four?
Well, what we've learned 2 years ago is probably, what we learned throughout our entire, coaching career and just in basketball. The margin of error is so small. I mean, if Alicia Welch makes a shot on one end, we're up 3 and ball game's over. But because she missed and we go down and we defended extremely well, so much so that we got a block shot and it was an air ball that, what is her name? Graduated. She put it back in. I forget her name. She's from Maryland, right? She put it back in, and that's the margin of error, an air ball that turned into a, to put them up, by 1. And it's hard getting here. It's very difficult getting to the 3rd weekend of the NCAA tournament, and for us, it's a uphill battle. But because of the conference that we play in, provides us a platform for us to, have some success in the NCAA tournament. With Connecticut and the way that they do things, at the rate that they do things, it's pretty special. I mean, they do a great job at running their system on both sides of the ball, and they make it, they make you rise up to their level of play year in and year out. And hopefully, by us being here and possibly continuing to play them in the regular season and hopefully the postseason, you get a little bit closer to reducing the margin of error, because that's what it is. You have to continue to reduce the margin of error against a team that, so stingy on both sides of the ball.
We have time for 2 final questions in the back.
Don, Wendy Parker, Basketball Times, Blue Star Media. You, following up on the offensive development you talked about earlier, you brought in Melanie Balcom to do some offensive analytics. How did that come about, and what kind of insights have you gotten from that? How much has that helped with the personnel that you have this year?
Well, when we found out that Melanie wasn't returning to Vanderbilt, we wanted to keep great basketball minds in our game. The guys do it all the time. There's not a great coach on the men's side that is jobless without wanting to be in that position. I just thought it was a great opportunity for us to capitalize on bringing in a great offensive mind into the fold, and it's worked out terrifically. She's just, our coaching staff has been together for most of us for 9 years now, and sometimes you're hearing the same things and you're doing the same things, and the things that you're doing work. But you bring someone like Melanie into the fold, and she just gives us a different perspective on things. Melanie is one that breaks it down. I mean, she likes counters to everything that she does. And sometimes we look for, maybe 1 or 2 options where she's looking at how the defense is playing and how we can still run the same play and get maybe a 3rd or 4th option out of it, and constantly throughout the year, that's what she's helped us with.
Last question in the back there.
Hi, Don. Gus Contreras with NPR. For people who don't follow the season throughout and are only catching the Final Four right now, for any of the other 3 teams, how would you describe or explain to someone how to beat a team like UConn, who's won 111 straight games?
Well, to beat a team like UConn, I mean, you have to prep for them, not just in a tournament play. You have to prep for them all season long. You have to work on something that is effective against them, and you have to perfect it, from day one, and you keep working. They do have the luxury of working on things throughout the year because they don't have a whole lot of competitive games in their league. So for us, we play them in mid-February. They have, a month and a half to get ready, to perfect the game against us. And also with their regular season, they've played so many top level teams in the country, that they're already ahead of the game. And just including their style of play. Again, they make you rise to their level of play. So in order for you to beat a team like UConn, you gotta be given opportunities to play them, not just once a year. I think some of the things that we did in the game against them this year, if given the opportunity to play them on Sunday, we've been working on those things since then. So that's something that you have to do. It's all about preparation. You can't come into, a tournament like this and think you can beat them off of 1 day of preparation.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Connecticut is next on the podium at approximately 11:45. Connecticut is making their way to the podium. Their locker room is open from 11:45 to 12:15. Just a few reminders, please turn off all your cell phones. No flash photography and no video in the interview area. Please wait for a microphone to ask your question and address a specific student athlete. We'll hear a statement from head coach first, and then we will have questions for the student athletes and then send them back to the locker room and continue with the coach. Yeah. How you doing? Hi, how are you? On the dais now from UConn, head coach Gino Auriemma, student athletes Kia Nurse and Gabby Williams. We will take an opening statement from Coach Auriemma, and then we will start with questions for the student athletes.
Thanks, Amory. You know, it's a long journey, really, from October 15th, when we started, to this weekend, and you know, a lot happens in 4 or 5 months, and you go through a lot, and players change and teams change, and we're no different than anybody else in that respect. But what happened this year was really remarkable in that the unknown was what everyone talked about in October, and then throughout the whole season, it became really evident that, you know, this was a really, really good team made up of really good players. And they proved it every night, and this is where they belong.
We'll take questions for the student athletes, please. We'll start here in the middle.
Good morning. Adam Inakino from the Commercial Dispatch in Columbus, Mississippi. For Gabby and for Kia, who's the leader of this team and why? And how has that dynamic transformed during the course of the season?
We take that first, Gabby.
I think that we've all kind of shared the leadership role. Kia and I, Sanaya stepped up, Lewis stepped up. There hasn't really been one person to just kind of take over. And I think for different aspects, you know, different people take over certain things.
Kia?
To kind of piggyback off of what Gabby said, obviously, what we learned from the seniors who came before us is that it's never a one-person thing to have to lead a team on their own. And we've decided that this year, different people who weren't in that role before had to step up and do that. And like she said, it's been a team effort the entire way.
Question for the student athletes. Richard, over in the corner.
Hey, Richard Deitch, Sports Illustrated. Kia, what do you think, what for you was the toughest moment of this season, and how, as a group, did you overcome it?
I think during the beginning of the season, our toughest moments were in practice, in understanding what we needed to do to be successful. Because like Coach said, there was this unknown from a lot of people. And with us, our unknown was, how do we step into these new roles that we had not been in before and do them successfully and help out the younger guys as much as possible? So we had a transition to make, and we did it as best as we could. It was a challenge, but I think we stepped up together, and with the help of the coaches and the help of everyone on the team, we did a good job.
Question here in the front row.
Players, Doug Feinberg, DAP, it's obviously the team's been here for 10 straight years in the Final Four, but you guys don't have too much experience on the court in the Final Four. What have you learned to get you ready for tomorrow night's games?
Can you take that first, Kia?
Well, obviously, we're fortunate to have been here, you know, twice with the two of us and understanding, you know, how the older kids like Stewie, Mo, and Tuck, and Kalina and Kia had approached this tournament and what it took to be successful in it. And we're fortunate that our ringleader over here has been here a couple times. So using the advice that he gives us, the things that he helps us focus on in practice, trying to take those and use it as a game plan emphasis.
Question in the back here. Over here.
Chuck Carlton, Dallas Morning News, for both student athletes. What do you remember about last year's meeting with Mississippi State, and how much has the ringleader and his assistants told you to block that out, that this is a totally different sort of situation?
Can you take that, Gabby?
Well, they've returned a lot of players, so you know, there's some familiar faces. We've been watching them all year, so we do remember some things about them. But you know, like you just said, they have evolved and they have changed, just like you know, every other team that's here right now. So right now, we're just going to face the team that's in front of us.
Question in the back.
This is for both players. I'm Andy Friedlander from Newsday. Can you give us a feeling of the legacy? You're playing for a team that's won 111 straight games, that's won 11 national championships, and now you step up to a leadership role. What is that like? Is there pressure, or is it the other way? Does it make you feel like, wow, we're part of this, we can do this? Kind of take me through the dynamic of what that's like.
Well, I think no matter what, when you come into a program like this, there's going to be pressure. And what you learn from the moment that you get here, from the coaches and from the vets who have been here before, is that you learn how to deal with it and how to handle it and how to put it aside when it's not needed. And when you come here and you have to step into a role of leadership, and it's difficult and it's a challenge, the best part about it is that the people who came before you to build this legacy, who had done it so flawlessly, they had the same challenges. They had to get through the same things. So you know what's possible, you know you can do it, and you're not doing it alone. You have the help of the coaches, you have the help of your teammates, and that makes it all the better.
Take one final question for the student athletes in the back.
Hey guys, Gus Contreras with NPR. With this week being so intense, what's the most fun part about this whole process?
You want to start, Kia?
Obviously, the Final Four itself it's something to be celebrated. It's not easy to get here. It's a lot of fun to be a part of, and there's a lot of stuff going on around it. And I think the funnest part about it is that you get to do it with your teammates, with the people who have put their tail on the line every single day in games and practices to help get you here. And to see the smile on our face of our senior last night, T, who went to a rodeo, just to see how happy she was, I mean, that's probably the most fun part, to get to be with your teammates and experience this with them.
Gabby?
I mean, it's just a blessing in itself to be here. And, it's definitely an opportunity we don't take for granted. And like Kia said, this is our last few days together, just this team. So we're just going to try to enjoy it. And, this is the last trip we'll have with Sanaya and Tierney. So we want to make sure that they have a good experience as well.
Thank you, ladies. They will head back to the locker room, be available until 12:15 in the locker room. And we will continue with questions for head coach Gino Auriemma. We'll start over here in the corner.
Gino, excuse my language here, but I seem to remember at the beginning of the year, you said something to the effect of that there are times you wish these guys would be more assholes on the court, or something to that effect.
I wouldn't say that.
Oh, well then, well, you probably would. But I wanted to get a sense of how you think their collective personality is as a group today, and is it different from what the collective personality was in October?
In 1998-99 season, we started the season as the #1 team we played 3 of the top 10 teams in the country in California in a row. And we scored 100 in every one of those games, and we won every one of those games by like 30. And we were #1 in the country, and everybody was talking about how they can't believe that a team could play that well that early. And we had 5 freshmen. I mean, they happened to be Hall of Famers, Sue and them. But then something happened. Sue got hurt. Things changed. And as we got towards the regionals, I tried to make the team into something they weren't. Like, I knew what they didn't have, and I tried to give it to them, and it all backfired on me. And we lost. And we deserved to lose because I screwed it up leading up to that. Because I tried to force something that has to come naturally, So I thought about that this year, and right around that time, early in the season, I said, I can't do this. I can't make them into something they're not. It's not going to work, Things are going to have to play themselves out, and we're either going to become that or we're not. And little by little, they started to respond to whatever circumstances were in front of them, but they've never changed. They haven't become what I hoped they would become, like edgy, and really pissy with, just walk out there and just grab you by the throat and choke you, like, some teams that I've had. They just walk out and, yeah, we're probably going to win, so let's just play, and I'm sure something bad will happen during the game, but it's okay, we'll fix it. And Lou, put your hand up on defense. And she's probably going to make a couple threes, but we'll win, Feast, are you going to guard anybody? Yeah, I mean, eventually I will, but it's not like I have to do it all the time. I mean, coach, really? I mean, they just have this attitude like everything will be fine, don't worry about it, and yet they keep winning. And you know how many times I go home and go, man, I hope we get our butts kicked the next game so bad, but it just doesn't happen. And I'm happy for them that it doesn't, but I'm pissed for me.
Question here in the back.
Chuck Carlton, Dallas Morning News. Taking that kind of personality of the team and applying it to the Mississippi State game, I mean, a lot of talk about what happened last year. You know, how do you get that out of their minds that it's probably not going to be a 60-point game this year, and erase that all, you know, is a fresh start this
Right.
year?
Well, just this morning, I watched that game again. And I'm going to remind them at practice today. There's nobody on this team right now that had anything other than I was at that game to do with that score. If you watch that game, Stewie looked like an NBA player playing against high school kids. And Mariah was so much better than anybody on the floor. And Tuck just dominated long stretches of the game. So the score was like 30-4 at the end of the first quarter. And I think Lou had 1 bucket. I don't think Kia had any. And the other guys didn't even play. So if they think they had anything to do with that win, they're going to be reminded today, no, they didn't. And this is not the same Mississippi State team that we played. And the turnaround that they've made offensively has been remarkable. And they're still the same defensive team that they were. And we're not the same team by any stretch of the imagination. If those 3 seniors were here, I would have a tough time convincing them. But won't be tough with this team.
Question here from Doug.
Hey, Gino, Doug Feinberg, the AP. I asked the players, I mean, you said it a little bit there, that the experience, even though you've been to 10 straight, those guys haven't really been on this stage. So how do you get them to do the right things to keep this thing going for you guys?
You know, the only reason we get asked that is because we've been here so much. And that only applies to me and CD and Shay and Marissa to a certain degree as well. And we're not playing. So the players that are going to be playing, Kia's played a lot in 2 Final Fours. Gabby, not much. Lou, a little bit. Sanaya, not at all. Crystal Dangerfield, not at all. Fisa, hardly at all. They don't own any of those 10 Final Fours. They don't own any of those 11 national championships. They only own part of the streak. I mean, the only thing that this team has to hold on to, I've said this before, is the 36 wins that they have right now this year. So going into this weekend, how are they going to handle this situation that they're in right now? I have no idea. But it's not going to be that much different than how's Mississippi State going to handle their first Final Four? How are those kids going to handle being here for the very first time? You know? We all have the same issues. You know, this is not an easy environment to play in. And both teams, I think, are going to see the effects of that.
Question down here in the front.
Amber Dodd, the Reflector at Mississippi State. Where in Mississippi State's performance do you see there will be like a keynote, and where have you taken some notes from where their development was from the first game to this one?
Well, I think from what I can see, and you know, believe me, I haven't seen like 40 of their games, you know, or whatever many they've played. But there must have been a reason why Vic benched 4 of his starters. Either it was because he thought they would be better coming off the bench, or he was upset about something. So when coaches make those kinds of decisions, that says a lot about the relationship that they have with their team and the kind of feel that he has for his team. And they responded, and they responded amazingly well. And I thought in the beginning of the season, offensively, they were good, but not this good like they are right now. And the big thing that everybody has to remember is, you know, I don't care how good your defense is, generally speaking. When you get to this point in the season, you're not going to win this thing with your defense. I mean, you have to play good defense, don't get me wrong. But if you can't score and score when you have to, on demand, in this tournament, it's really, really hard to win. Really hard to win. And they've done a great job in the tournament of scoring. And that's why they're in the Final Four.
Question right here.
Hi, Lindsay Jones from USA Today. There have been some really good games in this tournament, some especially Elite Eight games, overtime, the Stanford game. What does that mean for the sport or for the women's game to have a tournament like that? And what can we do to have more people pay attention when a tournament is that good?
Well, that seems to have been the question for a long time, you know. What are you going to do to generate more interest? And part of it has to be the competitiveness of the games, which that's what happened, but it has to happen every year. You know, the reason why the NCAA tournament on the men's side has been so compelling over the years is because of all the upsets that happen. Although the mid-majors are starting to get screwed, so that's maybe going to be less and less. But you know, it's the upsets, it's the overtime games, it's the, you know, North Carolina, Kentucky, Villanova, North Carolina games that go down to the last shot of the game. You know, it's those kinds of things that really attract people. And on the men's side, it happens all the time. And it has to happen more often on the women's side. Not in our games, but it has to happen in every other game. And I think that's kind of a starting point. And then there's, you know, a bigger question. This is not the right venue to talk about it, but there's some changes that the women's basketball tournament has to make it better. And I don't think they're willing to make that change yet, but eventually they're going to come to their senses, and they will.
Question right over here.
Coach, regarding player attitudes, there was a lot made of a comment you made last year about benching players because of their attitudes. Have you had issues like that last year or this past year, or do you think they've kind of pulled themselves together and had a good attitude going into games?
Well, you know, we wouldn't be here if we had issues. You know, teams that have those kinds of issues generally don't get this far. And teams that live with those issues year after year don't get as far as many times as we have. So we've been fortunate over the years not to be completely free of that stuff. But for the most part, this year has been relatively easy in terms of getting everybody to be on the same page the entire season. Now, that's easy to do when you're only playing 6 players or 7. When there's 4 players on the bench that think they should be playing, then you have some other issues. And right now we don't have that. Next year we'll have that, but right now we don't have that. But that's every coach's challenge. And that's why you see so many kids transfer now. They don't want to buy in. They want it, and they want it now. And so far, we've been fortunate to avoid that.
Question over here, Richard.
Gino, not that you're a television programmer, but how do you feel about the change from Saturday, Tuesday to Friday, Sunday in relation to what that will or won't mean for the popularity of this year's tournament?
Well, I've said this in the past. TV and what's going on in the actual arena don't go together. So what's best for television is a 10 o'clock start on the East Coast or 9:30 start on the East Coast. It's not best for my players to sit around till 9:30 tomorrow night, but it's best for TV because they're paying the bills, so they get to show the game whenever they feel like it. So we're lucky. How does that affect attendance in the arena? And what's more important? You know, we say, well, you know, at the regionals, there weren't a whole lot of people there. Well, you think anybody cares about that? No. They were on TV, weren't they? And that's all that counts. So what are we trying to do? Fill the arena or make sure people are watching on television? People in Dallas have done an amazing job. The arena's sold out. Is it because it's Friday, Sunday, and people don't have to take 5 days off from work to wait till Tuesday night to play? I don't know. I don't know. Does ESPN like Friday, Sunday? No. Are they going to make sure it gets back to Sunday, Tuesday? Yes. Is that good for us? No. Is it good for them? Yes. And in the end, who's going to decide what's what? And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying that's the world that we live in. You know, in 2002, we played in front of 30,000 people at the Alamo Dome. Now we're worried about sellouts. So a lot's happened in that time, and, you know, we have to figure out how to work together, make it work for the actual student athletes, because we always use that term, you know. What's best for the student athletes? Not playing at 10 o'clock at night is not best for the student athletes.
Question back here.
Zach Player, Commercial Dispatch, Columbus, Mississippi. The other folks that have gone with you to all 10 of these Final Fours are the fans, and the aura that has built around y'all's program over the time, the expectation to win, the knowing that y'all are going to win from the fans and everyone. How much of that aura do you hope to get your players to buy into, and how much of it do you want them to resist, and how do you handle that balance?
Resist? What do you mean?
How much of it do you want to be, this is our team, this is unique to us, and then how much of it do you want them to buy into, you know, this is UConn, this is the expectation of UConn women's basketball?
Yeah. I don't know that you can always separate the two, you know. We are what we are, you know. No one's imposed this on us. No one's making us who we are. We've done this ourselves. And the kids that choose to play at Connecticut are choosing us as much for what they hope to do when they get there as for what's already been done, and they want to be a part of that. You know, there's a lot of programs in the country, in a lot of sports, and even in the pros that have that kind of reputation, and people want to play there. Like Kia said, how to separate what's happened in the past from what's happening right now is important. And we've had teams in the past where kids will come to Connecticut and they thought, yeah, I get to Connecticut, I go through preseason, I get my uniform, and then I call my parents and tell them this is when the parade is, when we win the national championship. And then when they realize that they're going to get their ass kicked every day in practice and they don't like it, and they quit. Why don't you just not come here and come to the parade? You know, things just don't happen by themselves. You know, you have to make them happen. Not every kid understands that part of it. So, yeah, they want to be a part of it. They want to be part of the legacy, and they want to create. But at the same time, you should see in recruiting, you know, like when we're recruiting, like let's say a great player out of high school, and invariably the one thing they'll say is, well, why do you want to go to Connecticut? You're going to be compared to Diana Taurasi and Maya Moore and Stewie. I say, I don't know. Go someplace where you'll be compared to no one's ever heard of. I don't know. I mean, if you're going to come here, there's some things you got to live up to. And you can't escape it. So you might as well embrace it and enjoy it and let it help you rather than be a, you know, something that detracts from you.
We have time for 2 final questions here and here.
Gino, as the unquestioned leader of your sport in terms of everything you've won in the NCAA and the Olympics, for basically since Title IX, the number of opportunities for women to coach women, do you think that's been in decline? Do you think that's an issue that needs addressing or not? And Have you ever sensed resentment among your peers at all because you've won so much, and because you're not because you've won so much, but because you're a man who's won so much?
I think in the beginning, I think 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 20 years ago, yeah, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of that. By everybody? No, but by a lot of people, This feeling of, well, why aren't you coaching men? Which is really the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But not anymore. I don't think anymore. I mean, there might be some old-timers that still think that way, but not anymore. I would like to think I've done too much for the game, for the growth of the game, for people to resent the fact that I'm a man. So that doesn't exist anymore. I don't even give it a second thought. As far as opportunities for women, there's a reason why there's not as many opportunities for women. Not as many women want to coach. It's quite simple. When I started coaching, I was 21, 22 years old. And somebody asked me to coach women's basketball, 9th grade girls. I didn't start coaching there because I thought I'd be talking to you in Dallas. That's what I did, because it was kind of cool, and I liked it. And then I coached college girls. Then I coached high school guys. And then I was assistant at Virginia for 4 years. I didn't just drop out of the sky and land at Connecticut with 11 national championships. So anybody who resents that, that's their problem, not mine. I worked my ass off to get here. Back then, women had very few opportunities other than teaching, maybe. Some other jobs that certainly couldn't even imagine the opportunities that my players have today when they graduate. So what happens? Kids graduate from college, they're pretty sharp. The opportunities available to them, light years different than they were when they first started, 30 years ago, when I first started. And then they look at the profession itself and they go, I really need to put up with that crap? I can get a job at Travelers making X and live a normal life. You want me to go sit in the gym with 400 other coaches and watch 17-year-old spoiled brats play, and I got to take 5 of them to come play for me? Not everybody wants to do that. Why? They have options that they didn't have 25, 30 years ago. So it's not like people are consciously depriving women of opportunities. There's just too many other choices that, quite frankly, are better choices for a lot of women. And the ones that do choose to get in it, they're really passionate about it and they work their butt off. And I've never had anything but women on my staff, and I hope they all want to be head coaches, and I hope they move on and become great head coaches. But a lot of them at some point go, you know what? I don't like this business. I want to have like a normal life. What are you going to do, make them stay in the business? So it's just a function of how much we've done to elevate women in our society. Not nearly enough, but they have other choices other than be a phys ed teacher and a coach.
Thank you. That's all the time we have, actually.
Thank you, guys.